For activity 4.3, you're going to need to go through and create 4 different inventor models. And then after you've created those inventor models, you're going to need to go and create 4 multi-view drawings, one for each of those models, that are fully dimensioned, and then that'll be your submission for the activity. I'm going to go through the first part in your activity, show you some tips and tricks as far as placing features and creating your parts. And then in a later video, I'll go through and show you how to create the multi-view drawings themselves. So go ahead and open up a new part file, which can be done either here in the new window. I can do it under iPro, under New and Part, or I can go to New up here in the ribbon and select Standard IPT. And the part that I'm going to show you today is part number 1, which is this part showing here in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And you can use any methodology, additive, subtractive, a combination of the two, to create any of these 4 parts. There's no set way of doing it, just whatever way is easiest for you and most efficient for you. And for me, I'm going to go through and use initially the subtractive method to create the overall shape of this block. So I'm going to go ahead into Inventor, and I see the overall width, not including this extrusion on the right hand side, but the overall width of this body here is 4 inches. Its height is 2.5, 1.5 plus 1, and its depth is 2.5. So I'm going to go into Inventor, create a new sketch on the XY plane. If I hold my cursor wheel, my scroll wheel down, it'll allow me to pan. So I hold my scroll wheel down and I can pan and move my origin down to the bottom left corner. I'm going to create a rectangle from the origin, and its overall width is going to be 4. I'm going to tab, and the overall height is going to be 2.5. Tab and enter. I'm going to use my scroll wheel to zoom out. I'm going to finish that sketch, and I'm going to extrude it with a depth of 2.5. Hit enter. So this part we've created is our overall part here, with the exception of this extrusion on the right hand side. So then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut out this bottom section and the top and left corners of this block. So this bottom section has a height of 0.5 and a width of 3, which is this 4 minus 0.5 minus 0.5. So my width of that section is 3. So I'm going to create a new sketch on this front face. I'm going to use the rectangle tool, and I don't really care where this is placed currently. I am going to snap to this bottom line here, and I'm going to create it with a width of 3 and a height of 0.5. Now you can see that this is not placed correctly on the block. It should be centered. So to do that, I'm going to use the dimension command up here under the constraint panel in your sketch ribbon. And I go back to my part here, and I know that the distance from the left-hand side to this cutout is 0.5, which is shown there. So I'm going to create a dimension from this side. See, that highlights there, that edge highlights. And then I'm going to drag over to this left edge of the cutout, and I'm going to drag down, and right now that distance is 0.63. And I'm going to change that to 0.5. Enter. And you notice the cutout moves over to the center. And if I were to go over and put a dimension on this side, I don't need to. But if I were, click the wrong button there. Let me try that again. From that edge to that edge. Well, I did it one more time. How about we try for a third time there? Try from that edge to that edge there. There we go. And you can see that that dimension is 0.5. I don't need it because I already have it dimensioned on this side. Then I want to create the cutouts in the top left and right corners, and I can see that they have a height of 1 and a width of 1 as well, using this dimension and that dimension there. So they're 1 by 1 squares. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool, snap to the top left corner, type in 1, tab 1, and hit enter. And I'm going to do the same thing on the top right corner here. 1, tab 1, hit enter. I'm going to finish my sketch, use the extrude tool, and select all 3 of those profiles. Now I want them to cut all the way through, So I'm going to reverse the direction to direction number 2, and it automatically selects cut for me. You see it switched over here to cut instead of being on the join. So if you see this here without the red, it means that you need to select cut. And instead of putting a distance, I'm going to hit the drop down under extents here, and I'm going to select all. And what that does is no matter how deep this is, it would make sure that it cuts through it. So later on, if I needed to change the depth of this, I wouldn't have to update this extrusion because it would still cut all the way through no matter how deep this block is. And I'm going to hit OK. And that creates the cutout for that block. And I'll go back to my drawing here. And the last thing I need to do is add this extrusion on the right hand side. And that extrusion has a width of 1.5 and a height of 0.25. So I'm going to go ahead and create a 2D sketch on this right view. And once again, I'm not really concerned with where it is exactly, but I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And I'm going to just create a box that is 1.5 by 0.25 and hit enter. We'll go back to my drawing. And now if I look at my dimensions here, I know that this block is placed in from the front face 0.5 inches, and right here it says that it's 0.75 down from this edge. So I'm going to go back over to Inventor, select dimension. I want a dimension from that left edge to the left edge of the extrusion. I know that's supposed to be 0.5, and now that you can see that's centered. And then from this edge here to the top of that part is going to be, I clicked in the wrong order there. Let's try that one more time. Yeah, I'm having some issues with Dimension Tool today. There we go. And that is going to be 0.75 from that edge there. And I'm going to finish that sketch. So now if we pull up our dimension drawing, you can see it's placed appropriately, 1.5 wide, 0.25 tall, 0.5 from the left or from the front face in, and 0.75 down from that cutout that we made earlier. I'm going to create or select the extrude tool, and if we look at our dimensions there, we know that the depth of this is 0.75. So I'm going to change my depth of extrusion from that to 0.75 and hit enter. Go home and you finished your part. Now if for some reason, let's say that when you go home your view looks something like this, you've created on a different plane, it's nothing we can't fix. So if you go back and use the view cube to position it in the position you want to be home, which is this one here, if you right click on your view cube and set current view as home and then fit to view, that'll change your home view. And you also want to make sure that this is your front view. So if you go to this view and it's not set to front, you can right click on it, set current view as and front, and that'll change your view to front to make sure that this is set up correctly. Now this is extremely important for your multi-view drawings, that your front view and your home view are set up correctly for all 4 of your parts, and they should match the dimension drawings that you're given. So you'll have 3 other drawings like this, and your parts in here in Inventor when you create them should match these, meaning that this is always going to be your front view and then this will be your home view as well. Once you have your part completed, you need to make sure you save it. So we'll go to go back into Inventor, click on iPro, and either save or save as. If this is the first time you're saving it and you hit save, it'll give you the option to rename it. If it's not the first time and you want to save it as a different name, then you need to select save as. But we'll click save. And I'm going to name this 4.3 underscore part 1 underscore first initial last name. And I'm going to go to my documents. So go to my name and my documents. And you should have a folder here named IED. So I'm going to create a new folder called IED. And go into that folder, and I'm going to create you can also right click to create a new folder. And within that IED folder, I'm going to select new and folder, and I'm going to create a new folder for activity 4.3. Double click on that, and then I'm going to save this part to that folder. And this is where you should save all of your part files. And then once you create your multi-view drawings later, this is also where you will save those files. And then you're going to export PDFs of your multi-view drawings to submit. Those also should be saved in that folder to keep everything organized. That way later on, if something's missing, you can go back and find it very easily.